Teenage depression can be devastating, if for no other reason than the boy or girl concerned seldom has the knowledge or maturity to do anything about it themselves. The poor kids have to rely on us adults, and that can be enough to send anyone into a mental vortex. I think the biggest problem with depression is that it's an equal opportunity player. It doesn't care whom it attacks. 6 feet 6 inch, 270 pounds football player is just as likely to contract the wretched disease, as the little bespectacled girl who's 90 pounds soaking wet. So here's the first difficulty. The great big football player finds to his dismay that football no longer interests him as it used to. Somehow, he's lost his get up and go. Perhaps the little girl with glasses, who normally receives straight A's, had a couple of C's this last time. Our footballer, normally the life and soul of the party, was invited to a get-together with a group of his friends, but said he didn't feel like going. Even so, he went out that night, and came back at about 2 in the morning, drunker than he'd ever been, and never made it through the front door. His father fell over him when he went to work at 8 o'clock. The little girl locked herself in her room and flatly refused to come out. Teen depression is very different from the way adults behave with the disease. One example would be that a depressed adult is far more likely to be incredibly sad. They'll either stay in bed, or sit in a chair all day, steeped in misery and unwilling to see anyone. The teenager will probably withdraw to some extent, but is likely to keep his closest friend or friends around him. Another difference is that the adult really doesn't care what anyone thinks of him or her. My feeling was that I was worthless in any case, so if someone called me a useless idiot, I'd be the first to agree with them. The teen isn't quite like this, however. Teenagers are very sensitive to criticism, much more so when depressed, and are quite likely to burst into tears if there's even the suggestion of an adverse remark. As parents, it's up to us to note the mood of our offspring and set it off against the normal progression of growing up. For instance, as kids work through their teen years, the more assertive they're going to be. This is natural. They're going to ask questions, to disagree with adult decisions, but will be prepared to listen to sound and reasonable argument. If they aren't, but instead fly into a rage and slam out of the room, then something's wrong. The worst case is if the poor kid has parents who consider depression to be, at worst, feeling a little bit down. If this is the case, one can only hope a teacher or school counselor picks up on the child's behavior. Other signs to watch for, especially with girls, is anorexia or binge eating, along with very low self-esteem. Either sex might take to self-medicating, to put it delicately. In other words, drinking themselves into a stupor or taking drugs. Running away, or talking about running away, is another sign, as is reckless behavior, especially from someone who's normally quiet and careful. So the conclusion we can come to is that if the child begins to act in a manner contrary to his or her usual nature, then something is probably wrong and should be looked into. If they start talking or writing about death or suicide, then the gloves come right off and immediate professional help must be sought. The Center for Disease Control reports that suicide is the third leading cause of death among 15 to 24 years old. This is an outcome of teenage misery that should not be tolerated. Don't forget to share this video with those who can benefit from it. Like and subscribe to our channel for more helpful psychology content.